I'm a creep. I don't even know any of those words except I can't say them on the air. Here we are. Welcome to Monkey Time. Oh yeah, we're like ready to go. We're ready to go. It's time for Monkey Time. It's always Monkey Time. All the time is Monkey Time. That's all I'm saying. I could rhyme that, Carol. I could rap that crap. So we got links. I'm going to do some links. We got a lot of things to talk about. It's really funny. Can we put up number 4, Carol? I got to do it. I mean, Thomas Crowder, city council member, is dying of cancer. Cancer runs in my family, Carol. Do you know that?
That's not good news.
Oh, man, cancer's all up and down my mom's side of the family. It's like breast cancer here, breast cancer there, breast cancer over there, dead, leukemia there. Oh, it's just bad. And I have to worry about that. I have to keep an eye on the cancer possibility of the genes going through my genes. So I'm sympathetic to Thomas Crowder's plight. He's got terminal cancer. He's a city council member of Raleigh. But he's on this crusade. It's almost like it's his last thing, Carol. Like the Sonny Bono Copyright Act, After Sonny Bono ran into a tree on a ski pole, or on skis, right? Remember that? Sonny Bono ran into a tree on skis, and Congress used it as an excuse to pass this horrible copyright crap. They extended the time before something passed into the public domain by another 25 years. It's one of those Disney copyright acts, Carol.
You know it is.
Every time Mickey Mouse comes up for the public domain, they buy off enough politicians to extend the public domain. The public domain is one of the earliest things that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, they were all in the public domain. They loved it. Yeah, after a certain amount of time, somebody dies, their work passes into the public domain. Not Disney. So Sonny Bono, crashes into a tree, and we get this horrible legislation. And you know what, Carol? I know I sound crass. Carol's like, oh my God, the monkey sounds so crass. But Thomas Crowder's got terminal cancer. He's on the city council, and he's really pushing hard for this new sign ordinance that would limit to 50% the amount of window space you can use for signs in your own damn business. Stupid. I think it's evil. And if Thomas Crowder's death from terminal cancer gets the Raleigh City Council to pass this crap law, that would be something that would hurt Raleigh for decades to come, just like the Sonny Bono Copyright Act, has hurt the United States for decades to come since it passed. What do you think about walking down the street and seeing signs, posters, flyers, they're called, in my culture, Carol? They're called flyers, covering windows. Look at Nice Price Books, windows covered with new shows coming up. Look at the store where I work, Reader's Corner, windows covered with theater shows and people announcing things and saying, hey, I'm tutoring if you need any help. Our windows are covered with that crap. And Thomas Crowder and his, hang on. The microphone's in my crotch. Oh, hang on. And Thomas Crowder and the other people on the city council, like Russ Stevenson, who follow him, are like, oh, well, the cops need to see into their business. What? Bullcrap. Our business has blinds in the windows so the sun doesn't fade our merchandise. We've talked about this, right? Now Thomas Crowder's in the internet quoted today saying, oh, well, the reason Raleigh's such a popular town is that we don't have all this blight, all this busy stuff on our windows. Carol, seriously, that's what he said today in the paper. Now, it's the internet quote, so there's a 70% chance that it's actually true. But, Thomas Crowder's saying these things. Oh, the reason people come to Raleigh, the reason we're so popular is because, we don't have all this ugliness. And it's an aesthetic choice, Carol. What's ugly about flyers telling you what's going on in your damn town? Huh? Nothing. I'm sorry, Carol. I got that high-pitched whine going on.
Will you just brick up your windows?
Yeah, everybody just brick up their windows and don't tell anybody what's going on. I walked around downtown for hopscotch and for SparkCon, and I see these signs about, everywhere about this tattoo festival that's happening. I'm like, oh, damn, that sounds great. There's all kinds of flyers for theater and all kinds of stuff on all over businesses. And Thomas Crowder is pushing this thing that says, oh, that's ugly. No, that's not ugly. That's beautiful. That's city life. That's vibrancy. God. Thomas Crowder's crusade is wrong. I don't care how sick he is. And the city council needs to stop, what's the word? Pandering to Thomas Crowder's whims. It's wrong. You know why they started this crusade, Carol? Because of one sign at the corner of Glenwood and Peace where some idiot lady has a business where this sign, this bright neon sign's flashing 24/7. In a residential area. Semi-residential. It's the corner of Glenwood and Peace. I mean, come on. It's not, totally residential. But people live there, didn't like it, and they're very vocal. But, that's what started this. And instead of addressing that, which they couldn't, because she's ready to freaking fight in court, they went and said, let's go ahead and let's change our side. Let's do this new thing. It's crap. Thomas Crowder's crusade against window signs is misguided, and it's deeply hurtful to Raleigh culture. Street culture requires flyers and windows. It requires what Thomas Crowder calls ugly, busy, unpleasant.
Want to talk about Ebola?
All right, let's talk about Ebola. So, Carol, remember, something more important. I feel bad for Thomas Crowder. If he's emotionally invested, Carol, in this being his legacy issue, I don't care. He's going to lose. We need to stop this crap. That sign ordinance that Thomas Crowder's pushing is bullcrap. Okay, so anyway, more important issues. Thomas Crowder, your legacy is safe. You did a good job in Raleigh. Stop this crap. Okay, so they remember, Carol, back when, the Ebola was just in Africa? Everyone was freaking out. There were a bunch of people freaking out. We're just a plane flight away from an Ebola epidemic here in the States. And the government was like, no, don't freak out. And everybody's like, no, don't freak out. It's okay. And I'm like, wait a minute. We are. Really? I mean, when you look at it, Carol, we are really just a plane flight away from an Ebola outbreak in the United States. Obama comes on TV the other day, or radio, or whatever he's doing, TV, and he says, well, the likelihood of an outbreak in the United States, you ready, Carol? You ready? You ready? I do believe the phrase was extremely low. Oh, okay, that's right down there, Carol. There it is, right down there. You see it? That's the extremely low likelihood of an Ebola outbreak in the United States. But you know what? Don't tell me I'm freaking out when I look at the possibility. What's our plan, Carol, if there's an Ebola outbreak in the United States? You know how freaked out this country is going to get? Anybody who looks like they're from Africa is going to get beaten to crap up. Right? No, maybe not, because blood spreads it. Oh yeah, they'd be like, they'll be quarantined. I mean, you know how the Republicans are. You know how Fox News is. You know how Michelle Malkin is. She's like, the Japanese quarantine made perfect sense. So imagine with something like Ebola where you bleed from your eyeballs, right? People like Michelle Malkin will be like, round up everybody who's been in Africa for the last 2 years, in the last 2 years. Constitution goes out the window when you start getting really scared, right? We got to get ready. Don't tell me I shouldn't worry about this. I'm more worried about what an Ebola outbreak in the United States is going to do to my country, the Constitution of my country, than I am about what it's going to do to me. Carol, what's my only hope if Ebola hits Raleigh?
I don't know, what is it?
What is my only hope, monkeys? What's your only hope? What's your only hope if Ebola hits Raleigh? Think about it. Think about it. What's my only hope if Ebola hits Raleigh? Oh, I know. Pray I'm freaking immune. There's a small percentage of people, Carol, who are freaking immune. Yeah, that's right. I'm worried about the Constitution of America. Because I know you monkeys. As soon as there's any kind of threat, you freak out and toss the Constitution in the garbage. We've seen it. We did it. After 9/11, we've done it with NSA surveillance. Constitution out the window. Did you read that article about the Israeli soldiers who are quitting, resigning from the intelligence unit because they're surveilling Palestinians, and they surveil nothing Palestinians do in Gaza is not recorded. The soldiers are quitting, going, I know more about who's screwing who's cheating on their wife, who's doing this. We joke around about it. It's not right. Soldiers, Israeli soldiers, are quitting because they don't like what they're surveilling. They don't like the surveillance culture they're forced to be part of. They're quitting and going public. Do you know how hard that is in Israel right now? Right-wing Israel right now? They're doing it anyway. Meanwhile, so we know you people are willing to give up your rights here in America. You scare them enough, and bleeding out your eyeballs, Carol, that'll scare some people, she says. That'll scare you. You look at your neighbor, and your neighbor's bleeding out the eyeballs. You're like, oh, the Constitution is kind of important, but, that mofo's bleeding out his damn eyeballs. Oh, look at those children. Oh, they're bleeding out of every orifice. Freedom. Yeah, maybe we can reduce that a little bit. I know you people, that's what you think. Don't tell me I shouldn't be worried about Ebola. I'm deeply worried about an Ebola outbreak in the United States is going to do to my country's constitution. And aside from that, Carol, we really are just one plane flight away from an Ebola outbreak, right? You got a terrorist organization, send 5 people into an Ebola, infected area, and then put them on a plane to the United States?
Put them on a plane anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah,
Europe, yeah, whatever. Good point, Carol. But, put them on a plane in the United States. No terrorist record, no weapons, nothing. There's a 20-plus day incubation period. One of the 5 will probably get infected. Take them to New York. Bam. This is not freaking out paranoia. This is clear-eyed thinking. So, to me, Carol, the point is not, oh, no, don't freak out, oh, Ebola. And, anybody who complains about doctors coming back to the United States to get treated at the CDC is an ass. Those are doctors treating Ebola patients, Carol. They're American doctors. They're coming back to the United States to get the best treatment in the world. You're going to deny them that? Those heroes? Up yours. Up yours.
They'll be the best ones to help if it breaks out here.
And Carol says they'll be the best ones to help if it breaks out here. That's a good point. So yes, I have no problem with, and plus they're all in those weird, bubble suits, right? They're all they're these big bubbles around the stretchers and everybody. I trust them. It's okay. I want them treated here. But don't tell me not to worry. It can happen. And I'm more worried about what happens after Ebola hits America. What happens to the Constitution? What happens to my fellow people? What happens to the hatred? I saw what happened in terms of hatred after 9/11. Imagine bleeding out the eyeballs Ebola here in the United States. Oh my God, this country's not ready for that. We're weak. We're not ready for that.
Talk about Scotland?
Yes. My prediction, Carol, Scotland's vote is tomorrow, right?
Wow, tomorrow already?
Tomorrow, that's what I heard.
Okay.
Tomorrow. The 18th. I think it's the 18th. Is it the 23rd? No, it's the 18th. Scotland's votes tomorrow. They want to secede. Billy Bragg, the liberal, is like, no, do it. Secede. You know? There's all kinds of unanswered questions that are going to happen, but do it. Stay away from the Tories, the British. That government's horrible. And you know the British government's answer, Carol? Well, you know, Britain won't always be run by assholes like us. No, really. That's what the British government's saying. Well, you know, today we're run by the Tories, but tomorrow we might be run by someone else. So just because you know that we're run by assholes here in England right now, you know, you guys don't, and you guys are beholden to us, you know, it might change. Could change in the future. That's the argument against. Billy Bragg's like, no, do it. But I don't think it's going to happen. You know what? I'm going to predict tonight, Carol, the night before the vote. You ready? 57 against seceding from England, 43 in favor. Night before, monkeys, write it down. Just from reading online, just from taking the finger on the pulse of the internet community. 57-43, they're not going to secede from England. All right. ISIL. Oh, yeah. ISIL can't be destroyed by airstrikes. It's true. It's fun for us to think about, oh, yay, let's just bomb them, we'll be okay. We tried that. ISIL, ISIS, whatever, the Islamic State people, are a direct result of the idiotic Bush-Cheney invasion of Iraq, period. That was a disaster that Obama had no way of fixing. He said, I'm going to try to pull out. He tried to pull out. We wanted him to pull out. America wanted the troops gone out of Iraq. And now that ISIS has come up, all the Republicans are like, oh, how dare you? No, America wants out of that crap. Syria, the Republicans are like, oh, he should have bombed when Syria, put gas on its people. You know what? That's horrible. The Syrian dictator is horrible. But if we would have hurt him, if we would have bombed the Syrian dictator and displaced the Syrian dictator when all the Republicans, remember, Carol, all the Republicans were like, how dare he cross the red line? And meanwhile, there's contradictory evidence about who used that gas on that gas attack, that chemical weapon. There's significant evidence that it was the rebels. It's 50-50 as far as I'm concerned. We don't know. Anyway, remember, Carol, when the gas attack happened and suddenly we were supposed to bomb the Syrian president, Assad, and Obama was weak for doing that? Do you know if we would have done that? If we would have done that, Carol, you know who would have benefited? ISIS. Stupid. Bomb away is a stupid response. If we would have hurt Assad after that gas attack, which is not clear he did. I mean, he's a jerk, don't get me wrong. He's a fascist, murdering ass that needs to be out of power. But the way to do it is not the United States. We can arm some of the rebels, but do you remember what happened in Iraq? All those weapons that went missing? Hundreds of thousands of guns, automatic weapons went missing in Iraq. Billions of dollars of weaponry that you and I paid for went missing in Iraq. Missing. We don't know where it went. And the Republicans are like, oh, fun to arm the rebels. And half the rebels are ISIS. 2 years ago, they were all about arming the moderate rebels. But there's no way to just arm the moderate rebels in Syria. It doesn't work that well. It's not clear. No. You can't destroy ISIS or ISIL by airstrikes. You can't destroy them by feeding weapons to the other rebels. They just get in the hands of ISIS. The other rebels are weak and disorganized. The secular ones that we want, right? Or you and I would want. It's not so simple. And so now, after pressuring Obama to bomb the one guy who's like the main bulwark against ISIS in Syria. Much as I hate to say it, it's damn true. Now they're saying, oh, we need to like go ahead and, attack ISIS. Carol, ISIS is so good, they want the United States involved. They want the United States bogged down in another war. Just like Iraq. What did Al-Qaeda want? When the U.S. invaded Iraq, Al-Qaeda was overjoyed. Yay! Look at that crap. They're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars in this swamp of Iraq. Afghanistan too. What are we doing there? And now these people want us to start attacking Syria too. Attacking Middle East countries, bombing Middle East countries does not work. It creates chaos that leads to more ISIS. We see that. It's so crystal clear. Oh, we got a call? Yeah. All right. Hi, you're on the air.
Hello, this is Phil Jacobson. I just wanted to comment on the cause. You were mentioning what you thought was the cause of the problem in Syria that's caused ISIL.
Well,
I would like to comment that I think that the cause is the fact that we're still trying to enforce the borders put down by the Europeans at the end of World War I.
God, that's a great point. That's a great point. There's a couple of great books about this. But yes, these are all borders that were set up to divide tribes by the European powers right after World War I.
Yeah, and
how does that, tell me, how does that play out? How do you think that plays out now?
Well, I would suggest that every time John Kerry speaks, he says it is the patriotic duty of everyone inside the border that they called Iraq to work with each other because they have been anointed as one people.
By the West, right?
And just remove that. Stop saying that.
Yeah.
And then the Sunni tribes that were at one point throwing out the radicals on the promise that they would be involved in an inclusive government and got stabbed in the back by the Shia running Iraq after we put them in charge, they would revolt and form their own country on their terms instead of using ISIL as their focal point to form a core.
So the artificial,
they wouldn't need them anymore.
So the artificial boundary of Iraq is part of the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Iraq and Syria. Even you could apply this principle in a lot of places, but
Yeah. I agree. And it would all happen right after World War I.
Yeah, most of the imperial boundaries.
Yeah, in the Middle East.
There's others that are a little older than that. You could apply the same principle in the Ukraine. The border that Putin wants is to go back to a border that was set by Khrushchev, I believe, who was Ukrainian. People don't normally know that.
Yeah.
I don't know what he had in his mind, but
in the mid-50s,
borders that he put in there too.
Yeah, in the mid-50s. Yep.
Now, whether what they should, I like the idea of having a referendum, although you shouldn't have to invade a country in order to have one. So this thing in Crimea is what it is. But
don't you?
The principle was there.
Yeah. Okay. But let's get back to ISIS. I mean,
sure.
You're a freedom-loving guy, right?
Pardon?
You're a freedom-loving guy.
I am indeed.
Isn't ISIS one of the worst existential threats to your worldview in the world right now?
Philosophically, yes.
Politically
is a little bit of a different question.
Okay, so politically you're not feeling much of a threat. But philosophically, they're diametrically opposed to you and me.
Pretty much, yeah.
And don't you want to hurt them? I mean, they're cutting people's hands off. They're massacring other ethnic groups. They're horrible people.
Yeah. But by that standard, at any one time in any continent, there's somebody I should be hating equally. There are people in Africa, I'm sure, right now killing each other that I'm not being told to hate in such a fierce way as I'm being told to hate the Islamic State.
Well, ISIS is really being very politically astute, media astute too, by cutting off the heads of American journalists that they capture, and British journalists.
Yeah, they're just great publicity.
Yeah, they're doing it really effectively. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to get America enmeshed in another swamp of a war in Syria this time. Syria and Iraq.
War is the health of the state.
That's an old quote. That's an old quote.
It is the health of the Islamic State, no less than of the United States of America.
Can you explain that old quote? Because a lot of people may not know it. It's a famous old quote. War is the health of the state. What does that mean to you?
As it was originally posited, I'm sorry I can't remember the guy's name. He died in the influenza after World War I. He didn't have a long life, but he was an anarchist, if you will.
Meaning libertarian with brains. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if he would have accepted the word libertarian or not. But,
oh, okay.
To me, it means that the foundation of the state, its very existence, is the notion that of initiated force against individuals. You need to have a certain level of organized force before you're called a state, and you ought to exercise it in a military fashion every so often in order to prove that you're justified as a state.
Yeah, that's right.
That's an unnecessary thing. It's a piece of propaganda that we're taught to believe. If you don't have a state, but the states then need to have wars to justify themselves.
That's the key to me. Yeah, the health of the state is when it can assert itself against other states. You know, yeah.
Now, people say a country like Sweden, no, they're not fighting a war, but they do have a very large army, which is one of the reasons that they're not fighting a war. During the Cold War, they built an army comparable to, on a per capita basis, to any of the major powers, so to speak, at the time.
Sweden, really?
Sweden, yes. Switzerland as well.
And you think that's why they never got really involved, because they had those armies?
That's why they could afford not to. But their country, now I'm not arguing that Sweden is the worst country in the world, or that it shouldn't be, it should be, on the list of some terrible.
But you just said that, yeah.
It's usually used as the counter argument to war is the health of the state. Well, what about Sweden? And even Sweden has a big army.
Yeah. Okay.
And the fear that it would need to be used is a part of what Swedes believe to be a truth.
Huh.
Otherwise, it wouldn't justify the big army.
Okay. All right. Well, I like what you had to say about reminding people that these boundaries and these divisions were almost all set up by European powers and Turkey and, France and Germany and England back after World War II or World War I. World War I. 1919, all this stuff was set in motion. The Peace to End All Peace is a good book, folks. The Peace to End All Peace. A Peace to End All Peace. Really, really good book about this process in the Middle East. Well, thank you. We only have about 30 seconds.
No problem.
Thanks for calling.
I got my point in.
All right. Thank you. All right. We only have about 30 seconds. Listen. 10 seconds. What can I say in 10 seconds? How many detailed thoughts can I put out? Love one another.